Hey everybody, Éric here with Philippe J. Fournier for this week's episode of The Numbers. And Philippe, this is the last week of the sitting in the House of Commons. Right. If you know the episode from The Simpsons when it's the last day of school and all the kids just run out of the front, that's what I always think of when we get to the end of the parliamentary sitting. Are you in the same jubilant mood as the MPs probably will be once it finally adjourns later this week?
Wait, I didn't tell you who won World War II or something like that. We won!
Yeah.
That's a great clip. Listen, thing is, my college semester ended officially last week. I had a bunch of things to do this week for the magazine. I wrote for the Walrus. My website is updating. So it has been a really busy time. Plus, you may have seen, and we'll talk about it, some Quebec polls came out. So I had a really busy week. Now I'm just breathing a sigh of relief. And it feels like vacation. And I was wondering, I mean, we'll talk about the numbers in a minute, but in the sense of politics, the federal politics, who's going to have a good summer and who's not going to have a good summer, right? Depending on what we saw in the last few months, I feel like the summer will be kind of tough for the Conservatives. The Liberals, I mean, their numbers have leveled off a little bit. The NDP is still far back. So, I don't know, I guess we should talk about this, but you want to start with the last week's numbers, Éric?
Sure. I mean, that's what we usually do, so we can do that. Just the idea of the summer, I think that's... I remember I wrote about this probably like 10 years ago by now, maybe even earlier. And there was always this perception that summer was good for governments, that by the end of the summer, they would usually be up in the polls because people are feeling good, they're on vacation, there's not a lot of hard news. And so polling numbers for governments tend to go up over the summer. And at the time, now it's been over a decade, so maybe there's been new information. But at the time, when I had looked at it, I found that it wasn't actually really the case. Often governments actually lost support over the summer. I wonder what would happen in this case. I think it is going to be a hard environment for the opposition to get into the news in any way. So it is really up to the government to either have a good summer or kind of stay out of everybody's way and just...
That's it.
Yeah, that's often, sometimes it's good not to be talked about, and especially when you're in power. So I guess we'll see. But we'll get to the numbers. So we got 3 polls that came out over the last week. Not a lot of big difference between them. I'll run through them. We got one from Liaison Strategies. The new tracker poll had 41 for the Liberals, 32 for the Conservatives, 14 for the NDP. That's kind of interesting because we've been talking about that NDP number. They had that 16 2 weeks ago. Then it was 15 last week. Now it's 14. But now the 14 means it's a completely independent sample from the 16 because it's a 2-week rolling poll. So this might be a new kind of level for them. Nanos had 43 for the Liberals, 31 for the Conservatives, and 12 for the NDP. Last week it was 29.4 for the Conservatives. This week is 30.7. So we talked a little bit about how that was a low number for Pierre Poilievre. And then finally from the Angus Reid Institute, we had 41 for the Liberals, 36 for the Conservatives, 12 for the NDP. These polls all kind of tell the same story, right?
Not much disagreement here. I mean, okay, you can tell me that there's a big difference between the Conservatives at 36, which was the same number that Abacus data had in their previous poll. But in all, I mean, the best poll for the Conservatives is in the mid-30s, 36. And their trackers see them in the low 30s, 31, 32. As for the Liberals, there seemed to be a consensus here, léger notwithstanding, that they are roughly around where they were last year at the election, so 43, 44% on average, a little lower from the Angus Reid Institute. So there's no, I think, grand conclusion to take from these numbers, except that I mean, for Pierre Poilievre, his numbers from the Angus Reid Institute, his favorables, have not moved one inch. We look at those lines, the favorable and unfavorable for Pierre Poilievre, and they just don't budge at all. So it was 33% favorable, 60% unfavorable. I was wondering whether the government going from a minority to a majority and Pierre Poilievre being... I mean, we have a different conversation because now it's a majority, right? So the election was last year in April. If we were still in a minority scenario, the average minority, usually is what, 18 to 24 months, a year and a half to 2 years. We would be talking about maybe an election late next fall or maybe next winter. We're not talking about this. And so I think, as you said, it makes it difficult for the opposition parties to be in the conversation and take some of the space. The government is taking all the space now. So the best poll for the Conservatives is 36. Not that great. For the Liberals, are they worried about these numbers, Éric? I mean, they have gone down from the mid 40s to the low 40s, maybe, but it's marginal, isn't it?
I think for me, I need to start seeing more. I need more, I think, to kind of understand what's happening here, because Angus Reid we haven't heard from for 2 months. Right, so we haven't been able to see, and last time they had the Liberals, I think, also at 41 or 42 or something like that. Not really all that different. Yeah. And the tracker polls have had the Liberals down, but will we continue to see lower numbers in Abacus? Will we see Léger come down? Their last number is still a 50. What are they going to put up next? Will we see an end of sitting Ipsos? And if so, where's that going to be? So that is, I want to see what those are. Because if we are in a new kind of reality where the Liberals are going to now be between 40, 45, depending on the poll, that's a bit different than the previous scenario was 43 to 48 or sometimes a 50. It changes the perception a little bit, right? Because as you said, it means that they're down back to where they were in the last election. They're not having picked up new voters, although there might be some new voters that have come in that have been that are replacing voters that have left, because the NDP is up. And that Conservative number has to have come from somewhere, the fact that they're down so much. But the general kind of portrait does seem to be that the kind of post-Davos bump that Mark Carney got could be kind of receding. Yes. And that the NDP is in a better position, maybe getting back some of their traditional support that they had lost over the last year and in the months before the election. And again, you had mentioned Pierre Poilievre's numbers. It just seems like he can't. It doesn't really matter what he does right now. People have made up their minds about him, and they're probably just not seeing enough from him, just because it's not filtering through. They're not paying as much attention to politics, that kind of thing, that his numbers just do not move. And I just find that remarkable that he's kind of stuck, and he's not stuck in a good spot, which is obviously a bit of a problem.
So this is the tracker of favorability for Pierre Poilievre from the Angus Street. So I'll give you the favorables since November. 34, 36, 33, 34, 33. It just doesn't move. And it's almost like too stable. Like usually you see some fluctuations in there. The unfavorables, 60, 58, 60, 59, 60. And so that's a tough place to be in. And usually if your standing improves, the impressions improve over time, it's mostly because you take people from the I don't know or the neutral back into positive. It's rare that you switch negatives into positives. I mean, it happens, but it's more the exception rather than the rule. And if you have 60% of people that have a bad opinion of you and only 6 or 7% that say they don't know or not sure, it's tough to move. It's to wiggle out of that room. In the same poll still from the Angus Street Institute, Éric, the approval of the government went down. So it went from 58% to 55%. The disapproval went from 35 to 39. So this is significant movement. But you tell Mark Carney and the Liberals that after all they've been through 1 year after the election and now at the closing of the sitting, that they still had a plus 16 approval rating from the Angus Street Institute, they would say, fine, that's great. I mean, the plus 30 was not sustainable, but having a plus 16 at the end of this session, with there's so much uncertainty, and still, I mean, even the news about Canada entering a recession or a technical recession doesn't seem to have hit the Liberals that hard, at least in public opinion right now.
Yeah, if they can maintain plus 50 approval and roughly the same amount of support that won them the last election, if they maintain that for the next few years, they would be super happy with that, right? So we're really kind of parsing, the difference between like really good numbers that are unusual versus good numbers that any government would be happy to have for a little while.
Exactly.
I guess the question is whether the recent dip we've seen in approval ratings and Mark Carney's kind of numbers, which are still very good, but they're down a little bit, Is it just that it's going to come down to this new level, which is where it's going to hang around, or is it going to continue to go south? Are we going to start seeing, when we get to the fall, sub 50s for approval rating and that kind of thing? But again, when we think about the Trudeau years, they were usually, even when things were going okay, they weren't plus 40 in approval ratings, right? So it's more that we're trying to see if there's reasons for the Liberals to be concerned looking forward rather than reasons that they should be concerned right now.
Yeah. I want to say something about the NDP real quick here, because you see that 12% from the Angus Street Institute is like, oh, okay, is this confirming what the trackers, the phone trackers have detected? Not really. So Angus Street polls, federal polls since last fall for the NDP, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 12, 12. So maybe a little bit, but the Angus Street has had the NDP close or into low double digits for quite a while now. Again, it's strange that we have so much disagreement with the NDP. I mean, with Léger, that's still to him at 6%, and now we had them at as high as 16% this month. But it's a number that we'll have to keep in mind, because we understand that if the NDP goes to 15 on average, you would think it would come from the Liberals. But right now, this NDP score is not in single digits, but a double digit. It's not coming from the Liberals. The Conservatives have gone down compared to their standing last year. So yeah, to be continued, I guess. It's still interesting, and the Nanos tracker for a preferred prime minister still doesn't move at all, right? 49 for Carney, 24 for Poilievre. And this also, I mean, we don't want to be down on Poilievre all the time here. It's just that the numbers, when you hit a dip, you always expect, okay, it's going to go back up a little bit. It's going to rebound to the mean. Maybe this is the mean, right? The last 10 weeks of the Nanos tracker, 24, 25, 24, 24, 25, 23, 24. This is the preferred prime minister tracker for Poilievre. It just doesn't move, even though that Mark Carney has gone down from the mid 50s to the high 40s here.
And just as another little warning, I guess, for the NDP, they got 12 in the Nanos poll, but Lewis has 5 on preferred prime minister, right?
Yeah.
Just to plug my other podcast, the RIT podcast.
Go ahead.
I just put out an episode. I hadn't put one out for 3 months, but anyway, I just love this podcast so much. I just got no time for it.
But it's good. The RIT is good. Yeah.
But Dan Arnold, who is from Polera, he mentioned in the podcast that they did. Remember that poll where they asked respondents to write in the name of the official opposition?
That was so beautiful. Yes.
It was such a good poll. They've done it again, and this time they've asked for the leader of the NDP.
Okay.
And I can't remember the number he said. He said it's going to come out soon, but it was something around 10% of Canadians could actually name the leader of the New Democrats unprompted.
That's rough.
So yeah, it kind of shows the challenge that he still has, that he still is largely unknown. So when people are thinking about him, when they're thinking about the NDP, they might just be thinking of generic NDP, Jagmeet Singh NDP. He hasn't broken through just yet, so we'll follow that.
Generic NDP would be better than what we're seeing right now, though, so it's not entirely bad news.
Unless it's Jagmeet Singh NDP, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Because
that was the poll
in the last election.
Yeah. That was the poll that had Power Poilievre, right? That's the one, right? Oh, that was
Paul
beautiful.
Luliev. Just terrific.
I know,
terrific
right?
stuff.
So federally, I think that's pretty much it. If we have more in the coming weeks, but I think pollsters will try to dump their last polls before Canada Day, because otherwise Canadians are on vacation and it's summertime and the living is easy, right? So.
Living's not so easy if you're David Eby out in British Columbia. We got another poll from the Angus Reid Institute. So the Angus Reid Institute poll from a month ago or whenever it was really captured a lot of people's attention because it had the Conservatives ahead by 10 points over the NDP, which that's a big lead, especially in British Columbia.
Lead. Oh, yeah.
And then we have another poll from the Angus Reid Institute, 47 for the Conservatives, 36 for the NDP, so an 11-point lead, and 11 for the Greens. I said it last week or the week before. You wonder if David Eby's still going to be the guy for the NDP.
Now you wonder if David Eby will see the writing on the wall sooner than many other premiers and prime minister of recent years that stayed too long, right? No, we're not saying that he should go, but his personal numbers have gone down. His party is still the incumbent, but it's not going too well here. And many commenters said, yeah, but it's the English Street Institute. They're more conservative than the others, so maybe it's not that bad. It's like, well, actually, yeah, well, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But if you want to tell me that, okay, the English Street Institute may have the conservatives a point or two higher than other pollsters, okay, I'll listen. Not 10 points. Like, come on, not 10 points. And also, I'll point out to the last BC election, which was held in the fall 2024, the English Street Institute had 40% in its final poll for the Conservatives. They had 43.3. So they estimated Conservative support in that election. So you can't make it a general rule. Like, just partisans are partisaning, but don't be like that. So, we usually have regular polls from Léger and also the Research Co. usually has polls in BC, so we should be careful drawing conclusions from this poll. But this can't be good. Léger had Conservative +4 just early in the month of June after Miss Finlay won the leadership. And the Conservatives went from +10 to +11 in this poll, with the Monsieur Eby having poor personal numbers. They have to think that they're heading into a wall if they go into the next election right now. They have the benefit of time. The election is not scheduled for another 2 years, but that's the thing. Benefit of time is good if you benefit from it, if you take the advantage of it. And we've seen Monsieur Legault, even Justin Trudeau. I know the Liberals say it worked. Justin Trudeau left late, but it was very risky. Some premiers stay too long, and we'll see what Monsieur Eby does.
Yeah, and in British Columbia, with how close it was in the last election, if you're leading province-wide, you probably win, right?
Yeah.
So with that Léger poll that had Conservative +4, that's a victory for them.
Yep.
+11, that's a huge win for them. David Eby had 31% approval, 60% disapproval, which we had seen in the quarterly approval polls from the week before. But we also got some numbers on Carrie Lynn Finlay, still largely a blank page, 25% favorable, 41% unfavorable. So you still got about 40% or so who don't have an opinion of her.
Yeah.
So there still is that uncertainty there, and there's a big undecided number in the Angus Reid Institute poll, which they highlighted because I think it was higher than it normally is.
Yeah.
So there's still lots that could still happen. Finlay still has to make a name for herself, and she has to not screw it up, because right now they would win. But that'll be something to keep an eye on as well. And again, just how are the BC New Democrats going to feel about this? Are they starting to wonder if they, as you said, might be heading into a wall? And if so, do they need to make a change? I'm curious. They got some interesting cabinet ministers. Maybe Adrian Dix would come back. I heard that if he even if he kicked a dog, he would win an election. So we'll have to wait and see. But and also, I just made that comment. So Doug Ford had 21% approval. He got asked about it. I haven't seen a politician bite on so many poll questions as Doug Ford recently. So he decided that the poll was fake. He said it was fake. That their own numbers were better. He highlighted, I think, the Abacus poll that had him in pretty good shape. And the Angus Street Institute put out a statement kind of showing how, that they do a good job in Ontario, that kind of thing. Anyway, just don't do it. If you're a politician, just don't do it.
I mean, it's such an easy thing to avoid. Say, polls come and go, but we have to work hard for people, and we'll improve, and we're not perfect, and blah. It's so easy when you look like a loser when you criticize like this. Let your team do it if you really want to criticize pollsters. Especially the English Institute is not just some polling firm, right? It's established for many decades and has done a good job in Ontario. Also, Abacus data. Yeah, they showed pretty good numbers for the PCs, not for Doug Ford himself. So anyway, but just to go back for a last second before we move off the BC poll, it is a sample of about 800 respondents. So obviously we have to be careful with the regional subsamples. But still, Metro Vancouver, Conservative leading by 5. Fraser Valley, Conservative leading by 8. Vancouver Island, Conservatives leading by 14. Oh, and the Greens are 24, by the way, in this poll. And in the interior, Conservatives leading by 23. This is not just a majority, if those numbers were to materialize. This is a massive majority, like 70 seats or something. And so, yeah, that's at some point the NDP has to realize, yeah, we've been in power for 9 years. Perhaps we have more in us. Maybe not with that leader, but we'll see.
Okay, well, we got, as you mentioned, we got a couple polls out of Quebec.
Yeah.
Polls from Pallas that you had commissioned and one from Léger. They showed pretty similar numbers. Do you want to take us through them?
Okay, so Pallas data, first for l'Actualité and QC125, the French equivalent of 338. 29 for the PQ. 25 for the Liberals, 20 for the CAQ. The only real movement here was the Liberals, the Quebec Liberals, down among Francophones, and the CAQ picking most of that up. Conservatives 14 and Québec Solidaire 11. What was interesting is that government satisfaction, even though the CAQ has gotten a few points, the government satisfaction number, 20%, did not move that much from the previous Pallas poll, but the dissatisfaction increased 14 points. And so it was very interesting to see the Léger poll, which have different numbers in the satisfaction, but saw the exact same trend, dissatisfaction increasing 10 points. So at the same time that the Christine Fréchette's CAQ is kind of recovering for the Legault years and Legault last months of the Legault reign, the dissatisfaction is still very high. And in the Pallas poll, I mentioned this on the radio, there are 18 points separating first and fifth place. So, a Rainbow National Assembly, it looks like we're going to have with those numbers. Obviously, the campaign is going to change a lot of things. Was there something that struck your eyes from those Quebec polls, Éric?
Well, perhaps the stability, the larger stability in it. Léger didn't show much movement, 30 for the Parti Québécois, 27 for the Liberals, 21 for the CAQ, 13 for the Conservatives, 8 for Québec Solidaire. Because you could have seen, we talked about it at the time, that huge kind of swing in the satisfaction numbers that went from negative to positive. Could have been either the presaging a big comeback for the CAQ, but also it could have been a little bit of a momentary, ephemeral kind of boost, a sugar high, and could have come down. Now we've seen that the satisfaction numbers have come down, and what's interesting, there was like Léger had it being people who were satisfied who went to unsatisfied, but Pallas found it as people who were neither satisfied or neither dissatisfied or not
neutral.
sure, who went to dissatisfied. But we haven't seen that the CQ has come back down. So it makes it seem like maybe the CQ's new kind of baseline is going to be somewhere around 20% rather than 12 or 15.
Yeah.
And that puts them in range because, as you said with the Francophone vote, they had 25 in Pallas, they had 23 in Léger. They get that up to 26, 27, 28. Path to majority for the Parti Québécois goes out the window.
Oh, there's no majority with these numbers. I mean, unless you get extremely lucky and by chance you win all the close battles. But usually, the odds are that doesn't happen. You can't have all the right resources in the right place all the time. So I will update my Quebec projections. My last projection with 125 seats. I will migrate to the 127 seat map very soon. But I have PQ minority with these numbers. Just because, Québec Solidaire had two good polls, 11-11 from Synopsis and Pallas. Léger still at 8. You average that out. It's like somewhere between 9 and 10. They would hold on to at least half a dozen seats. The Conservatives also maybe half a dozen, maybe a little more. Quebec City, it looks very tight, so depending on the ground game. The CAQ at 25 among Francophones. These are seats right there available for the CAQ in rural Quebec, especially. And two of the polls, so Pallas and Synopsis the week prior, saw the Parti Québécois take a stumble in Quebec City. Now, Léger didn't see this, but these are small subsamples. But if the Parti Québécois doesn't win Quebec City, which it hasn't in this century, so it's not natural for Quebec City to turn to the PQ. There's no path for 63 or 64 seats for the PQ. We will have a minority if that's the case, and which will make it very interesting because how long does that National Assembly last? For those who maybe don't follow as much Quebec politics, there's a lot of animosity between all of these parties and all of these leaders. I cannot see a working coalition nowhere. Do you think for 1 second that the CEQ would support the PQ, or that the Liberals would support the PQ, or that Éric Duhaime would support the PQ? Maybe Québec Solidaire would be the most plausible, but I see you smirk a little bit here, and we know they dislike each other very much, and so I will see how the numbers move. It's not a good poll for the Quebec Liberals and Charles Milliard, but in the Palace poll, we continue to have the tracker of the leaders. And for the first time, a majority of respondents had an unfavorable impression of Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. 54 unfavorable, 31 favorable. And 48 negative among Francophone voters. So the PQ is still leading. The PQ is still the favorite. They're not at a great spot right now.
And there's no real sign that anybody's well positioned to take off, right? No. As you said, the PQ seems to have a ceiling that keeps getting lower and lower because of Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon's popularity and obviously the referendum question. You have the CEQ who seem to have a bit of a surge, but then you see that Fréchette's numbers starting to get a bit worse, so that puts a ceiling on them. Charles Milliard had a bit of a surge when he first came on. Now it's kind of receding. So it almost feels like the parties will inevitably be stuck somewhere between 30 and 20, these three parties. And it's just who can get to the higher 20s. It's a weird election. I haven't seen an election like this before, really. I mean, you could maybe go back to like the 2007 one in Quebec. But even then, that was still three. That
was three parties.
There was three parties. There weren't two other parties taking 20% of the vote off the table. So it is going to be a knife fight in a telephone booth, as they say.
By the way, the threshold for recognized party status at the National Assembly is 12 seats or 20% of the vote. Now, it's never happened that a party has 20% and doesn't win 12 seats. So, now we can see that scenario. Let's say the CEQ gets 20% and loses close battles to the CEQ. It would survive and would still be a party even if they win 8 seats. It's going to be quite a battle. We'll follow that throughout the summer and the fall.
All right.
Éric?
Last week was a humbling experience. It was a tough quiz for me.
Yeah.
And, it's not a usual thing. So
no, it's not.
I'm still kind of jittery and not sure about how to proceed. But apparently, you've got a humdinger for this week.
So, Éric, I have a little script here that I will read. It's time for the quiz. So let me read this. Éric, after many consecutive golds and silvers, including some super golds, you were humble last week in the quiz on the 1957 general election, the first victory by John Diefenbaker. Many members of the podcast, viewers, and commenters actually felt sorry for you, and I felt a bit bad too. But they were also surprised because you usually crush these quizzes, and I felt maybe it was a tad too hard or maybe a tad too obscure. But other viewers and commenters told me, no, don't go easy on Éric. He can do it. It's okay to take a stumble. It's not how you fall, it's how you get back up.
Wow, that's inspiring.
There you go. So, Éric, this week's quiz will act as an opportunity for redemption. We will use the same format as last week's quiz, i.e. a trivia about a past election deep dive. Now, in our many conversations, you and I, Éric, you did tell me that there was one period of Canadian political history that you are both very fond of and quite knowledgeable about. Do you remember this? You remember this, right?
The 1920s, 1930s?
The 1920s. You specifically said that you read a lot of books and studied that period. So, all right, 10 questions about the 1925 federal election.
25.
The result of the 25 election led to the King Byng affair, which happened 1 century ago this week. It was in late June that the King Byng affair occurred. And for those who don't know the King Byng affair, maybe we'll get to that. But basically, the Prime Minister, Mr. Mackenzie, asked for what was his name? Monsieur Byng, whatever his name. Byng of Vimy, I think his name was. The Governor General, he asked for dissolution. And the Governor General said, no, we'll actually give a chance to the Conservatives to govern. And it created a lot of problems that you know more than I. So, Éric, are you ready for this?
Yes, let's do it.
The general federal election was held on October 29th, 1925. The incumbent Liberals, led by Mackenzie King, lost both in terms of seats and the popular vote to Archer Meehan's Conservatives, but the Conservatives fell short of a majority in the House of Commons. After the election, Mackenzie King refused to resign and instead made a deal with the Progressive Party, which had enough members, barely, to surpass the Conservatives. Now, obviously, we won't get into that now, but the next June, King requested dissolutions from the GG, and it didn't work, and it created a whole crisis. So, we have 10 questions. Gold is 9. Silver is 8. Bronze is 7. And below 7, you know what it is.
I felt it last week. It's shame.
You have... I changed one little rule from last week, Éric. So, you have 2 clues, 2 lifelines. But if you use it and you get the right answer, you get to keep it.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little change because I think it's fair. Okay, let's begin. Number 1, Éric. Aside from 4 independent MPs, including different flavors of independence, how many parties were represented at the House of Commons after the 1925 general election, and which are they?
Well, first, are you counting the Progressives as one big umbrella party, including like the United Farmers and these kinds of things?
I count Progressives alone.
Okay. All right. Well, then there would have been obviously the Liberals, there was the Conservatives, there was the Progressives. The United Farmers of Alberta would have won a couple seats. And I think there would have been some of the Independent Labour Party that would have won seats. So I'll say it was those.
Conservatives, Liberals, Progressives, United Farmers, and Labour. You are correct. You are 1 for 1, and you still have your clues. Very well, Éric. Okay. Number 2. The Progressive Party of Canada took a hit in that election. After winning 58 seats in the previous election in 1921, they were reduced to only 22 seats in this election in 1925. How many provinces sent Progressive MPs to Ottawa after this election, and which are they?
How many provinces? Okay. Well, Manitoba was one where they had many. They would have won some. They might have won still a few in Ontario because the UFO was still in power. Were they still
UFO?
Yeah. The United Farmers of Ontario. I think they got drummed out by then. But anyway, I'm going to say Manitoba, Ontario. There wouldn't have been. Oh, there might have been in New Brunswick. Oh, this is tough.
Don't forget you have clues.
Yeah. Give me a clue on this one.
Unfortunately, the clue will not help you much, though. But the Progressives won 2 seats in Ontario.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say Ontario, Manitoba. I think I'll say New Brunswick and Saskatchewan. I'll say 4.
Final answer?
Yeah.
So the answer is 4 provinces, but you got them wrong. So sorry about that. Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. There were none in the Maritimes. Okay. Okay. You're 1 for 2, and you lose your hint. Okay. Number 3. Once again, about the Progressives. Who was their leader? And in which province did he run in 1925?
In 1925. Okay. So it was Crerar in 21.
Yes, it was.
I don't think he was in 25. I think in 25 it was Robert Fork in Manitoba.
In Manitoba?
Yeah.
The answer, Robert Fork, or Forky if you pronounce the E at the end, which I don't know. And you did run in Brandon, Manitoba. Yep. You are correct. Okay.
Ooh.
So you're 2 for 3. Very well. Éric, let's go to the Conservatives. They won the most seats in that election, even though they fell short of a majority. In fact, they won seats in 8 of the 9 provinces that were part of Confederation at the time. Obviously, Newfoundland was not part yet of Confederation. Which province were they shut out of, despite earning 25% of the vote in that province?
Were they shut out in Quebec? I don't think they probably won a single seat like on the West Island or something. I'm going to say they weren't shut out in Quebec. Where would they have not won a seat?
You can use your hint.
I don't know, so I think it would just be a guess, so I think I'm going to have to try to use the hint.
Okay, this province is west of Quebec. And of course, it's not the territories province, right?
Okay.
This province is west of Quebec. Where did the Conservatives not win a seat in west of Quebec?
They're going to win some in Ontario. Meehan was in Manitoba, and he got reelected, pretty sure. So it'd either be Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. I mean, BC. No, I think they would win in BC. Alberta would have been all the United Farmers and the Progressives and the Liberals. Or Saskatchewan. I'm going to say it was Saskatchewan. They didn't win one.
And the answer is Saskatchewan.
Oof.
You get the point and you keep your clue. Very well. The Conservatives won in every province except Saskatchewan, which, again, all kinds of crazy 1 century later, right? Okay, you're 3 for 4. Very well, Éric. You're doing well. You already matched your last week's score. So,
Low bar.
Number 5, Éric. Still on the Conservatives. More than half of their caucus after the election came from Ontario. Which province elected the second most Conservative MPs in this election? Of course, after Ontario.
Second most.
Second
again,
most.
It wouldn't be Quebec. So we already said they didn't win any in Saskatchewan. They wouldn't have won many in Alberta. So I don't know. It'd be like BC or New Brunswick or Nova Scotia. I'll say.
Do you want to use your hint? You have it, right? You have it.
Yeah, give me the hint.
Okay. The hint is this: it's not BC, and the province I'm looking for, the Conservatives won 11 seats.
11. Okay. I was going to say BC, so that saves me. 11 seats. I mean, Nova Scotia has 11 seats now. At the time, I don't know if they did. Manitoba, could they have won 11 seats in Manitoba? I'm going to say it was Manitoba.
And that's wrong, my friend. It was Nova Scotia.
It was Nova Scotia.
Back then, Nova Scotia had 14 seats, 11 of which were Conservatives. So
Okay. Yikes,
so
I have no more clues.
3, 4, 5, and no more clues. Okay, number 6, Éric. In the province of Alberta, the party that won the most seats did not win the popular vote. Which party won the most seats? Which party won the popular vote?
So the United Farmers would have done okay.
I prepare all these clues, and now you don't have... You know what? I'll throw in you got through the 5 first question. I'll give you a free clue if you want it. Okay. But not now, but one more clue for the rest of the quiz. Okay.
Okay. So it would either be the Farmers or the Liberals, I think, who won. The Farmers didn't do as well. You said they won 22 seats. So
No. The Progressives won 22 seats.
Oh, okay. I think the Farmers were still doing okay. I'm going to say the Liberals won the most seats. The Farmers won the most votes.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Neither are correct, my friend. I'm sorry. The Conservatives won the popular vote. The Progressives won the most seats.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay, 3 for 6. You still can medal. And you have that free hint I can. Okay. Number 7. Éric, the Liberals won more seats than the Conservatives in 3 provinces. What are these 3 provinces?
Quebec, an easy one. So we've already kind of eliminated. It's not going to be Nova Scotia. They wouldn't have done it in Ontario. And they didn't do it in Alberta.
Well, we have clues from previous answers of this quiz too, right? So.
Yeah. I guess, okay, so it would be Quebec. I'm going to say it was British Columbia because, the CCF didn't exist yet. They weren't winning a bunch of seats there, and the Progressives weren't winning there. So I'm going to say it was Ontario, Quebec, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Éric, it was Quebec, Saskatchewan, and Alberta.
And Alberta.
Alberta. The Liberals won more seats in Alberta than the Conservatives. The Progressive won the most seats.
I misunderstood the question.
But,
okay.
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought it was just the most seats, but anyway.
No, just more than the Conservatives. Oh, you know what? We can... Okay, well, no. We'll talk about this.
That was my mistake. Okay. I got to listen.
All right, to finish this quiz, now you're 3 for 7. To finish this quiz, we have three rounds of sweep or rainbow. So let me just pull the map again in 1 second here. I have it right here. For the first one, sweep or rainbow. So basically, for those who don't know, Éric, I will give 3 neighboring or contiguous ridings to Éric. He has to tell me if the same party won all 3 or it was 3 different parties, and of course, which parties. So sweep or rainbow. Went back here. The first one, we are going just outside of Toronto in Ontario. Éric, Halton, Peel, and Dufferin-Simcoe. Halton, Peel, and Dufferin-Simcoe. Was it a rainbow? Was it a sweep?
So if it was a rainbow, the third party would have to be the Progressives. Now, would they have won one of those? I feel like they might have won Dufferin. But I'm going to say it was a Conservative sweep.
Final answer? You have that free hint that I gave you, so you can use it.
All right, I'll take the free hint for this one.
Okay, the hint is the Conservatives won Dufferin-Simcoe. That actually helps you.
Yeah, okay, could Halton have been... I'll stick with a Conservative sweep.
The Conservatives won Dufferin-Simcoe, and they also won Halton and Peel. So it was a Conservative sweep. Actually, the Conservatives won 67 seats in Ontario out of 85. It was a really good Ontario election for Mr. Mia. Okay, so you get the point. You're at 4. All right. Okay. Number 9, sweep or rainbow. This one we're going to Alberta, which we already established was pretty weird, right?
Yeah.
Compared to today's standards, obviously. Let me just pull that up. Okay. Éric, Medicine Hat, Bow River, and Calgary East. And you kept your hint from the last question. We have 2. Yeah. So this is the second last question. So
I'll use the hint if I can.
Okay. Calgary East was won by the Conservatives. And as we established earlier, and maybe I'm just trying to fool you here, the Liberals won more seats in Alberta than Conservatives.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'll say that the Medicine Hat went Liberal, Bow River went for the United Farmers.
Medicine Hat did go to the Liberals, but it was the Progressives that won Bow River. So, but hang on
they
here.
They caucused together.
Point of order. When we began that quiz, you asked me if the big tent of the Progressive, so it included the United Farmers?
They caucused together. The United Farmers was their own kind of thing in Alberta, but I didn't know that there were also Progressives in Alberta. But they were together.
You know what?
Half point?
I'll you know what? I'll give you a half point here because
Yay.
I mean they were separate on the listings that I see, but if you look at
it's a different banner. Yeah. All right.
Okay, Éric, one last round of sweep or rainbow. This one will have to span 2 provinces, but the ridings are still contiguous. Red Deer in Alberta, Caribou in BC, and Skeena in BC, northern BC. Was that a rainbow? Or was that a sweep? And you can have the hint if you want.
Give me the hint.
Caribou was won by the Conservatives.
Skeena.
So Red Deer in Alberta, Caribou in BC, and Skeena in BC.
Skeena up there. I mean, the Liberals would do well up there with Duff Petillo, but that was later on, I think. And then Red Deer. I'll say Skeena Liberal and Red Deer went to the Progressives. Though if it's the United Farmers, I will reach my hands through the screen and strangle you.
Skeena was won by the Liberals.
Yay!
And Red Deer was won by the United Farmers.
Yes! Wait, did I say Progressives?
You said Progressive, and you said you'd strangle me if the United Farmers. But you know what? It's another half point for you.
I'm going to put a slash United Farmers. Progressive slash United Farmers. It was close enough.
I count that as a half
on the map.
point. It's green on the map. That's right. The former reform. It's, you know what, Éric? That was pretty hard. You finished with 6 out of 10. This is... If we test for drug testing, maybe the gold medalist had drugs or something, and then you find yourself in a podium eventually. But congratulations, Éric! I think this is a redemption for you. That was a lot of fun to do. We'll go with more recent elections if you want later, but that was pretty good. Thank you.
All right, I will. I'll take it. It was fine. It wasn't as bad, but it still wasn't great. Anyway, thank you very much. That sounded like it was a well constructed quiz, so I appreciate that. So thank you. Number of the week. I'll go first because it's just a little one. In the Angus Reid Institute poll, it had approval ratings for each of the leaders, and then it had it by how people voted in the last election. So my number of the week is going to be 75. That was the favorability rating that Pierre Poilievre had among past Conservative voters. 20% had an unfavorable view. Those numbers were, especially the unfavorable, the 20%, far worse than what Mark Carney had among Liberals, among what even Abby Lewis had among New Democrats, even though they didn't vote for him because he wasn't the leader at the time. So he still has this same kind of 1 in 5 chunk of the voter base that does not like him that much. So I just thought that was an interesting number to see that we haven't focused it on much because his leadership vote was, back in January, but he still has some issues within Conservative ranks, at least the voting ranks. The membership ranks, maybe not, but in the electorate, there are still some who aren't that pleased that he's still the leader.
That's tough. That's a tough number. Éric, my number of the week comes from my latest column that was published both in L'Actualité and The Walrus about the TGV, the high-speed rail proposed by the federal government, ALTO, from Quebec City to Toronto with stops in Montreal and Ottawa and other places. The Parti Québécois leader came out strongly against the TGV because of cost, because of the tracé, the path that it will take, but also the route. But he also mentioned he doesn't want Canadian nation-building projects, which I felt when he said it, I felt like it was saying loud the quiet part. That you don't want it to be constructed because people might like it. So as this was unfolding, I was writing the script for the new Quebec poll by Palace. Palace does the polling, but I wrote the script. So I added a question about the TGV, and we know that such infrastructure projects, we know the devil is in the details. Of course, if it costs $100 billion, people won't like it too much. But just the first question is, are you favorable to this project? And I mentioned from Quebec City to Toronto with stops in Montreal, Laval, Trois-Rivières, and Ottawa, Peterborough as well. And it was not even close. Those who are favorable to the project was 41 points higher. This is my number of the week. 41 points higher to those who are unfavorable. So, people want high-speed rail. And I spoke to many people this week about this poll because it made waves in Quebec, including many sovereigntists who said, why not have a high-speed rail? And if we're going to separate one day, I mean, it's still, numbers are not too good, but if Quebec is going to be independent one day, we still want high-speed rail. What are you talking about? So I just feel like this was kind of a own goal from Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon. He didn't have to go that hard against this project. It's popular, and perhaps this is an example of political parties should poll before announcing big decisions and big comments like this, because you can gauge, not you will change your opinion on something, but you can gauge the message and the intensity of the message.
And if I remember correctly, PQ support is also not as strongly in favor, but a plurality of them in favor of the Alto, the train. Everybody likes a choo-choo. Hey, they're fun. They go fast. All right. Well, that'll be it for this week. Thanks a lot, Philippe, for that quiz. Appreciated the effort.
Too hard.
If people want to support the podcast, you can go to thenumberspod.ca. We did have our mailbag episode up on Tuesday. So if you aren't a member of the Patreon, but you'd like to listen to the mailbag, you can join the Patreon at thenumberspod.ca. Get ad-free, early access to the episodes, access to the Discord. So if you would want to do that, you can do that. We would appreciate it. And Philippe, I hope you have a good weekend. We'll chat next week, and we'll see what's going to happen over the next few days. But I hope you have a good weekend.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Merci beaucoup Éric. Have a great weekend.